By now, you've probably heard people talking about Web 3.0, the future of our internet, but you might be wondering what the differences are between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, if there's something special you have to do to access it, and how it's going to impact and shape our future of the internet. Which means today we're having a conversation with blockchain expert Jesse Anglen, who is the founder and CEO of the second largest blockchain app development company and an expert in the Web3 space. Today he's breaking down everything you need to know on a very beginner, basic level so that you can understand what Web3 is and why you don't necessarily need to be as scared as some people are leading you to believe, and how it is going to shape our future. Let's dive in as part of today's NFT series continuation.
Hey, so I'm Jesse Anglen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Rapid Innovation. We are a Web3 development company with around 300 developers currently right now working to build Web3 applications.
And I'm so excited because today we're breaking down what Web3 is. So what do we need to know in terms of Web3, and how is it a little bit different than Web2?
Yeah, so I remember my first experience with Web3, actually, my very first experience with it. I showed up to a buddy's house, and he wanted to help me understand what it looks like to, what the future was going to be like. This is the very, very beginning of Web3, like very, very beginning, it was probably 2015, end of 2015. Ethereum had just become a thing. MetaMask had really just become a thing. So maybe even 2016. And so he sat me down in front of a computer, and he said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to log into MetaMask, and we're going to inject your private key, which is your authorization to be able to do things, into, that's going to be stored in MetaMask. And then when we access a website anywhere on the internet, the website is going to ask, do you have a public key that can tell me who you are? And so in this case, because we're logged into MetaMask, we can inject our Web3 into our, into that internet browsing experience. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And so he shows me, right, and we log in, and then he goes to this site, and there's already a user on. I didn't sign up. I didn't put in my email address. I didn't create a password. I didn't do anything. I was just logged in. I'm like, oh, how does it do that? Like, I've never been here before. How does it know? And he said, well, it injected your public key into the app, and it knows because it actually is looking at the ledger that you are a human being who has access to the Ethereum ledger. Here's your public key. And so now it's just showing you everything for your MetaMask. I said, well, I didn't create an account. He said, you don't have to. And it struck me at that moment that, like, you could, with Web3, you could completely change the way that people use the internet, because there's no more passwords at all. There's no more signing up for accounts at all. And as you're browsing around the internet, doing things, you go to your bank account, you're logged in. Doesn't matter what computer you're on. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. You're there, and all of your information is ready to be used. And then anything that you do as you're interacting with that application or that website, all of that is then stored back to the blockchain. And so the next time you're there, it's all there again. And if you ever go to another website and you do something, it also has access to everything that you saw on the first website, because it's all connected to this, giant decentralized digital ledger. And so if you go buy a token on one website and then you go jump over onto another one, everything's there. It's like all of the applications in the world no longer require passwords or logins, no longer require accounts, and are all interconnected with each other so that they can all talk to each other, communicate, and they kind of become this one thing that happens that makes your life easy and convenient. And it blew my mind. I mean, I fell in love with the idea of Web3 when I really finally got it, when I understood what they were trying to do. And so I think that's kind of a sum up. Like, at least it tells a story of what it could do, or how it could, in my mind, change things.
So Web3 is really about the easiness of using your information and the ownership of using your information. Is that correct?
Yeah, because basically I don't have to give any of my information away to use anything. I can go to any application anywhere. I already have an account. Any information that I give them, I don't actually have to, I'm not giving it to them. They don't ever get it from me. It remains mine. I become and remain the custodian of all of my information. And so, yeah, basically.
So with Web 2, which is what most of us are currently accessing right now and where we kind of spend our time, the difference is that that information is not necessarily going to be following us around. We're going to have to enter in that information to each website that we go to. And in theory, they're also taking ownership of that. They have all of that data from us, and Web 3 kind of protects it and gives it more power to us.
Yeah, basically. I mean, if you think about it like this, like the current Web 2 world, right? It's a bunch of buckets. Like you've got a Facebook bucket, and you've got all the information that you've ever given Facebook, and everything you've ever done on Facebook lives inside that Facebook bucket. And that is centralization, right? You have centralized everything that you've done on Facebook. And then you go to YouTube and you have your YouTube bucket, and everything that you've done there lives in the YouTube bucket. What Web3 has done is it has said there's a way to build all of this infrastructure that eliminates the buckets. And so everything that you do everywhere is everywhere, and you remain in control of everything that you're doing and all of your information. And so, if you take let's pretend like a social media platform, a full Web3 social media platform. As far as I know, this doesn't exist. Maybe it does. And you're using one and you like it, and it's something that you want to use, and you're posting stuff and you're doing things there. And then this new social media platform comes out, and because all of your content and everything that you're doing is stored on the blockchain, when you log into that new social media platform, i.e. you go there and you're logged in because you have an account, because you have a public address on the public ledger. Everything that you've done on the other social media platform is already on the new one that you just went to. And maybe there's a different format, there's different stuff that you can do, but your information lives with you. Another interesting idea that I've heard and people are playing around with is like assets in games. So if you think about the gaming industry, right, you've got swords and shields and all the stuff that you have in game number 1 that lives in this bucket. And then you have your other game, and it all lives in another bucket. Well, in the Web3 world of gaming, it's possible that you could take all of those in-game assets and turn them into NFTs. And then where applicable, you could actually take the sword from game number 1 and go use it in game number 2. Or vice versa. And so you're not only the information that you're giving, but the things that you create in the Web3 world can be carried around to other places. Another thing I've heard people talk about is the idea of your digital avatar, that you can actually bring it around to every single Web3 application that you visit, because it is a part of who you are on the blockchain, which is where the idea of the metaverse gets into, which I won't get into because it's a whole other thing. But yeah, so if that makes sense.
It does. That makes a lot of sense. So when it comes to somebody who's brand new to the concept of Web3, are they going to be seeing a big dramatic shift from a Web3 based application or platform versus that Web2, or is it going to be kind of a seamless transition?
Yeah, almost all of it sits underneath the surface. If I think about it like this: if you've got let's say you've got a combustion engine vehicle, and you get in it and you drive it around. It moves you around from point A to point B. You can go to your grocery shopping. Your experience is driving around a vehicle. You go purchase a Tesla, or any other electric vehicle, it does the same thing. It's accomplishing the same thing. It's just accomplishing it in a very different way. And it's not until you really look under the hood, in that case you wouldn't see an engine, right, that you realize something's very, very different. And so the Web 2 and the Web 3 world really ends up being almost like that, where everything on the surface is going to kind of function the same, it just allows underneath the surface for us as developers to do stuff that you can't do right now because there is no siloed information. And so the user experience remains very, very similar. But what's going on behind the surface is incredibly different.
So now that we're moving forward toward this Web3 space, what should we be looking at in the future? What should we be anticipating in the future for this shift more so toward Web3?
I mean, that's a really good question. I'm not even sure that's actually one that I can really answer because there's a lot of motivation to keep things Web 2. Like, companies make a lot of money off of us because we give them our information and they can sell it to third parties. And so I think like we're going to see a transition where, and this is just my personal opinion, but we're going to see some of the legacy giants in the space start to die off. As they're being replaced by these Web3 user-owned, really, or network-owned applications. I think from a user standpoint, like a normal everyday person, you're probably not really going to notice much of anything. I mean, you will get access to a wallet, say, or maybe you'll start using a browser that has your public keys and private keys stored in it, and then all of a sudden your browsing experience becomes easier. And we'll see some larger players in the space start to die off and other ones take over. But I think for the most part, we're not actually really going to see too much of a change. I think it's just going to slowly transition over time.
Interesting. So any final things we need to know about the Web3 space as somebody just learning about it?
I would say, get MetaMask and play around with decentralized applications. So go to something like DApp Radar and look at the different applications that are on DApp Radar. Get MetaMask and just go play around with them and kind of, get a feel for what it looks like to log into a decentralized application.
Fantastic. And where can everybody find you online to connect?
The best place is going to be rapidinnovation.io. You can find all of our different social media links there. Or if you just want to learn more about the space and get some really in-depth information, we've got a YouTube channel. I think if you just search for Rapid Innovation, you'll find there's some in-depth videos on all kinds of different stuff.
If you have questions about the Web3 space or anything related to NFTs, go ahead and drop those down below. Our experts will be getting those answered in the comments for you. And we're going to be continuing this series in the future, so make sure you hit that subscribe and notification bell, as well as dropping videos every single day to help you level up on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and live streaming, and with the tools and resources you need to take the time, commitment, work, and stress out of your content creation so you can get back to doing what you love, running your business. I'll see you in the next episode.